By the end of Naruto, a lot of people look at the story as if everything had been driven by alien plans and destiny. But what if in reality, this story had been driven by the small details, seemingly irrelevant situations that if they had played out even slightly differently, would have completely changed the fate of the entire ninja world? Stick with me until the end of the video so you can understand everything about it. What's up everyone? How's it going? Welcome back to Dragon Dao. The butterfly effect starts from the idea that a tiny variation in a system's initial conditions can completely change the final outcome. The most famous metaphor is that the flap of a butterfly's wings in one place can end up causing a hurricane on the other side of the planet. The idea isn't that the butterfly by itself causes the hurricane, but that a small change can enter a much larger chain of events and alter the result far down the line. And Naruto is perfect for this kind of analysis because the series has major tragedies and major manipulations. But beneath the big, obvious causes, there were small triggers that pushed the first piece in the line. So, let's get into them. After Orochimaru's attack on the Leaf Village, Itachi finally shows up. He faces a few of the village's Jonin, and Kakashi ends up in a coma after being hit by Tsukuyomi. Sasuke shows up to talk to Kakashi and is surprised to find other Jonins in the room, all with serious looks on their faces, as if something extremely grave had happened. He asks what was going on. But before any of them could give even a remotely careful explanation, Aoba suddenly barges in, all clumsy and awkward, asking if it was true that Itachi had shown up in the village. That was it. The worst possible information, arriving in the worst possible way. Sasuke doesn't think twice. He runs off to find him. And when he finally finds Itachi, he's completely humiliated. Itachi says he had no interest in him whatsoever, says his hatred was still weak, and forces him to relive the massacre of his parents over and over through Tsukuyomi. That completely breaks Sasuke. After all those years, he was still nowhere near his brother. Not a threat, not a priority. And that's because Itachi wasn't even after him, but Naruto. At this point in the story, Sasuke already wasn't in a good place. He had started out as the genius of Team 7, but Naruto had been growing way too fast. Naruto defeated Neji, who was another genius. Naruto defeated Gaara on his own, while Sasuke himself had already been powerless. So imagine what that did to his head. The target of his revenge had appeared, but the center of attention was precisely the boy he saw growing right in front of him. That's why the Sound Four's offer worked so well right after that. Orochimaru, who should have been seen only as a criminal and a traitor to the village, starts to look like the solution for him to get strong fast enough. The curse mark stops being a threat and starts to look like a shortcut. We don't know whether Sasuke would have abandoned the village even without that traumatic reunion with Itachi. Maybe yes, maybe no. He was already jealous of Naruto, but Naruto didn't have to leave the village to be improving so quickly. Maybe Kakashi could have held him back for longer. Maybe his bond with Naruto and Sakura would have carried a little more weight. Maybe Orochimaru's offer would have seemed far too absurd if Sasuke hadn't just been crushed by Itachi again. Maybe Team 7 in the village would have helped him with his revenge, something similar to what Sakura proposed. We don't know. What we do know is that Aoba's line worked as the trigger that reconnected Sasuke directly to the main trauma of his life at the worst possible moment. One careless line from a background character changed Sasuke's fate forever. Before the Nine Tails attacked the Leaf Village, before the Uchiha clan massacre, before Naruto became an orphan, an apparently irrelevant scene happened in the village cemetery. Kakashi is standing in front of Rin's grave, talking to her as if she could still hear him. He comments that Minato's child was about to be born, and that this information was top secret. He laments that they hadn't been born a little later, since this was now a time of peace. Then he tells her he'd share the news with Obito too. But what Kakashi didn't know was that he didn't need to go tell him, because the person listening that whole time wasn't Rin. It was Obito himself. And from that point on, everything goes wrong. Obito attacks the place where the birth is taking place, extracts the Nine Tails from Kushina, and unleashes it on the Leaf Village, creating several of the story's central threads. Kakashi ended up letting it slip, but to turn that information into the Nine Tails attack, Obito still needed to connect a few more things. He had to know that Kushina was Minato's romantic partner, that she was the Nine Tails Jinchuriki, and that the seal weakened during childbirth. Did Obito already know all of this? I couldn't find any proof of it in the manga. I don't remember anything along those lines in the anime either. Even though it would make perfect sense for him to already know some of those things, these ideas were only presented in other media, like games. But even if Obito didn't know everything beforehand, Kakashi said enough to indicate that something important was happening, because he said it was a state secret. So at the very least, Kakashi gave Obito a direction to start looking. I find it hard to believe that Zetsu himself would have revealed all of this, even if Obito hadn't found out anything through Kakashi. This attack doesn't seem like a perfectly rational move within the larger plan. The Akatsuki still wasn't operating as the organization we would see later. No Tailed Beast had been captured yet, and they needed to be sealed in order, according to what was established during the war. Obito wasn't ready yet either. He was inexperienced. If this had come from Zetsu himself, he would have been pushing Obito into an attack that put the entire plan to bring Madara back at risk. So this attack seems much more like Obito's personal revenge against Minato than anything else. Anyway, Kakashi was just talking to his dear dead friends, but that was enough to start one of the greatest tragedies in the series. And before we continue, if you're finding this video interesting, I'd like to ask you to consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel so we can reach our goal of 1,000 subscribers. I'd really appreciate it. Who is the greatest villain in Naruto? Orochimaru? Pain? Obito? Madara? According to a lot of fans, none of them. The greatest villain is the guy who denied Nagato bread. Of course, that's a joke. Nobody is literally saying that this random guy refusing to give him food turned Nagato into pain. Or are they? I don't even know anymore. Anyway, the butterfly effect here isn't something like Nagato asked for help and didn't get it. That would actually fit with the worldview he would later develop about people's indifference to the pain of others. But the butterfly effect is more specific. If Nagato had gotten food there, maybe he would have stopped. Maybe he would have regained his strength and taken a different path. Maybe he would have gone the other way, to another region. Maybe when Konan passed by that place, she wouldn't have found that boy collapsed on the ground. Being denied that bread made Nagato keep wandering, and that's what led to him being found by Konan. Konan leads him to Yahiko. And from there, the most important trio in the history of the Rain Village is born. Without this first trigger, there's no way to know what would have happened. Maybe the Akatsuki as we know it would never have existed. Maybe Nagato would never have become Pain. Maybe Jiraiya wouldn't have died while infiltrating the Rain Village. Maybe the Leaf Village would never have been destroyed. Maybe Naruto would never have been forced to mature his answer to the hatred of the ninja world. There's no way to know what would have happened, but we know what did happen. A man denied bread to a hungry child, even though he had plenty to spare. That child kept wandering and collapsed on the ground. Because of that, he found other orphans and formed new bonds. But then he lost everything again and became Pain. After the 5 Kage summit, Suigetsu and Jugo split up from Sasuke. While looking for him in one of Orochimaru's hideouts, Jugo loses control, attacks Suigetsu, and breaks through a wall, revealing a secret room. Inside it, Suigetsu finds a scroll and says they found something incredible by accident, information capable of changing the course of the war, and he wasn't exaggerating. At that moment, Sasuke was completely lost. He had just encountered the reanimated Itachi and seen the truth about the Uchiha massacre through Itachi's own eyes. And then he was left without a simple answer for what he should do from that point on. So when Suigetsu and Jugo finally reunite with him, that scroll becomes the starting point for one of the most important turning points in the 4th Ninja War. Sasuke decides to revive Orochimaru and meet the ones who know everything. Orochimaru is brought back and uses the reanimation jutsu to bring back the 4 Hokage so they can talk to Sasuke. That conversation changes Sasuke's course. Hiruzen confirms the truth about Itachi and the Uchiha massacre. Tobirama explains the issue with the Uchiha and the Sharingan. And Hashirama tells the story of his relationship with Madara and the original dream behind the Hidden Leaf Village's creation. Sasuke finally understands that the village was the dream of peace that Itachi tried to preserve until the very end, even while being crushed by it. He doesn't become a good guy. He still leaves with his own cold, radical view, which later appears in his plan to become Hokage by force and carry the hatred of the world alone. But that meeting stops him from continuing down the path of destroying the Leaf Village as revenge for what they did to Itachi. Instead, he decides to protect the village by heading to the battlefield to help. Without Sasuke fighting alongside the Alliance, they wouldn't have been able to pressure Jubito in the same way. Without Sasuke, Naruto would have been hit by the truth-seeking orb. Without Sasuke, the other necessary half of Six Paths Chakra to seal Kaguya wouldn't have existed. Without Sasuke, the world would have remained trapped in the infinite Tsukuyomi. The Hokage's return also changes the war directly. They arrive at a moment when the Shinobi Alliance was under immense pressure, and from that point on, they start turning the tide. And all of that started because the blandest character on Team Taka accidentally broke broke a wall and opened the path to one of the biggest turning points of the war. Yes, this whole sequence is convenient as hell. The wall breaking, the secret scroll being right there, the existence of a completely destroyed Uzumaki temple near the Leaf Village with intact masks, the fact that Orochimaru had never gone after the masks before, his return through Anko's curse mark. It's a sequence of very blatant plot conveniences. And to me, there's even a poorly handled retcon in the middle of it. But despite all that, the result works really well within the story. But now I want to hear from you. What do you think about all of this? Leave your opinion in the comments below. If you made it this far, I want to ask you to leave a like and subscribe to the channel to keep following discussions like this. And if you like the topic, videos about butterfly effects in Dragon Ball will show up here on the screen, with more Naruto ones coming in the future. See you in the next video, right here on Dragon Dao.